Howdy, sailors. This is your captain speaking, and welcome to another episode of the Bruise News. So yesterday I meant to put out the video. Actually, Friday I meant to put out the video. I'm trying to make sure that I'm looking at the camera. My girlfriend told me I don't look at the camera. Wish somebody would have told me that before. I guess I was just staring at myself. Can't blame me, right? Anyways, I meant to bring out a video on Friday, but I just, things got kind of crazy, and then yesterday got a little crazy, so I'm doing the video today. I have the results from 241. I had my predictions written down. I had Costa winning, I had Diaz winning, and then I had DC winning, although I thought that Stipe would be able to set up the upset. So anyways, we're going to get into the results now. The way that it went is Costa ended up beating Romero in a close unanimous decision. I sort of thought that it should have been a split decision, but it went to unanimous decision, which the winner, Costa was the proper winner. So either way that went the proper way. I felt like Costa would win because I felt like he was a better version of what Yoel Romero is. Yoel is a really strong wrestler. He's a big guy. He's real powerful. He's methodical. He's all those things. He's kind of a freak of nature. But Costa's the same way, except he's younger and he has a lot of cardio built behind him. Like, the guy can really go. They did seem a little gassed at the end of the fight, but that's what happens when you carry so much muscle mass around with you. But Costa still had a real good gas tank. He still put up a good fight. He was even getting a little flashy at the end, which was impressive. I wouldn't say he cruised his way to victory, but the fight was definitely a war, and he definitely took advantage of every situation that he possibly could. There was one time or two times in the fight where Romero had actually scored the takedown, but he wasn't able to do much with it because Costa does have a background in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he was able to stand back up very well, and he's very strong, so that went well for him. The next fight was the Nate Diaz versus Anthony Pettis fight. For this, I figured that Pettis would definitely lose to Diaz. I felt like Diaz would win because Diaz kind of sets that unwavering pace where he just relentlessly attacks you, and he just tends to break people and make them open up for shots, and then when they start opening up for shots, Diaz really starts to tee off. This fight was way different than that. Diaz was going for takedowns. He was transitioning on the ground. He even said that he said himself that he wanted to really have a chess match with Pettis because he knew that he was good everywhere. He felt like Pettis was one of the last true gangsters of the UFC, and he really wanted this fight, and now he wants Masvidal, which is an interesting fight as well. But when the time comes, I'll make the proper prediction for that, or maybe in the next video I'll get into talking why that fight's so interesting. Anyways, Diaz fought a very different fight than what we're usually used to seeing. He really mixed everything up. He had wrestling, jiu-jitsu in there, striking, but as he said before, he was rushing a lot, and he felt like he could have got finishes in certain areas, but he was so starved for time that he didn't. He felt like he wanted to get to the next part and finish him so fast that he ended up rushing past the finish line, if you will. It's interesting to hear him say that, or even have that type of thought process, because usually Diaz just goes out there and he just wants to have an absolute war with people, and that's what he ends up doing. That's what he does, is he really turns guys who are good precision, guys with a lot of discipline, he turns them into guys who end up throwing, haymakers and just trying to take Diaz out with whatever they can, and that just wasn't the case in this fight at all. I'm feeling like right now, when I'm trying to do this video, I'm finding myself looking down instead of looking at the camera, and it's weird. Like, I'm trying to keep my eye on the camera because that's where the camera is, not here where I always look at myself, so then I'm looking diagonal, because I was talking about that before. So going back to what I was saying, Diaz fought quite an interesting fight, and it was amazing nonetheless. He did a fantastic job. He did everything that he needed to do in that fight. He had a great pace. He had great wrestling. He had great transitions. Pettis is a phenomenal grappler as well. I don't know if anybody knew that about him, but he's an absolutely fantastic grappler, and he's a fantastic striker, and it was dangerous. It was a dangerous fight on both sides. So it was awesome. It was a great fight. If you're a true fan of mixed martial arts, it was fantastic. Lastly, we're going to Stipe versus DC. This fight was real good. This fight was real good. It was a real good showcase of two guys who are just absolutely fantastic mixed martial artists. And they really showcased that when you really stick to a game plan, sometimes it works really well, and then when you're able to switch it up, it ends up changing the whole tempo of the fight. DC, to me, and this was one of the things I was going to say in my prediction in the first place, was that DC is a terrible, terrible, terrible blocker. Like, he does not block well, he does not dodge well, he does not move his head well, which is the same thing as dodging. He doesn't do any of that stuff well, but he seems to win because he puts people in really awkward positions. It's a lot like how Ferguson does things, where it's like you try to hit Ferguson and he's so all over the place that you're nailing him, but you're not nailing him right where you need to hit him, and it's not doing as much work, which is a way it's working, but for somebody who can really put up more numbers, that wouldn't work very well. Like, that's not something you really see in MMA much, where it should be. Whereas boxing, sometimes you'll see guys throwing 3, 4, 5, 6 punch combos, head, body, head. They're doing lots of stuff. Whereas MMA, you see a lot of 1-2s or just 2-shot combos. And when you have that dodging style where you're way leaning out or you're blocking with your arms up, that doesn't work when you have 3, 4 punches coming at you, but it does when you have 1 or 2, because you just need to get out of the range of that power shot. So it was working well. DC was doing well. He didn't really shoot for any takedowns, which I thought was odd because he's definitely a better wrestler than Stipe. And I thought that was something he should have been going to the whole time, but he ended up not doing that. So, but the third round, both guys were slowing down, and you could see that DC's age is kind of catching up with him a bit. Like, it's not the same DC we would have even seen a year ago. His cardio was just kind of taking it. It was taking a beating, and Stipe definitely saw that. And when he went into his corner for the fourth round and he came out, he was fighting completely different. He was leaning in and hooking with the left hand to the body. He kept going to it. He'd throw a jab straight, left hook to the body. So like I was talking about that third punch. So DC was leaning, and every time he would lean, he'd be leaning into that last third punch going to the body. Eventually, the punches started landing to the body that he wasn't blocking his head so well, and he ended up taking a stiff right hand right to the face. And then he took another stiff hand, and he went up against the cage, and Stipe landed 6, 7 punches in a row, and the ref stopped it. It was fantastic. Game plan change for Stipe. That's something a true mixed martial artist does, is they're able to adapt. I don't know if it was this corner or something that he noticed, or maybe it was a game plan going in. It's like survive the first 3 rounds, and then once he starts slowing down, start going to that body. Because we have seen DC actually have problems with body shots in the past. Anderson Silva, in the last round of their fight, he actually landed a body kick that I wouldn't say dropped, but it definitely buckled DC, which was crazy. I was jumping all over the place for that. So hats off to DC. He's 40 years old. He talked about retirement at 40 anyways. Like he said, this was going to be his last year for fighting. So I don't know if he's going to have one more fight. I don't really see why. It's not that you want to end your career on a loss, but it's like DC's done everything that he needs to do. A Jones rematch wouldn't prove anything. You're coming off a loss right now, so I don't think it's a smart choice for Jones to take the fight in the first place, and I don't think it's smart for you, because I wouldn't want to see DC going out on 2 losses like that, especially another loss to Jones. So it's interesting nonetheless. I'm hoping that he does retire, not because I don't want to see DC. I love DC as a fighter and as a person. He's a great person. He has a good story. But I think that he's done everything that he needs to do. He can retire safely now. He can maybe go to pro wrestling like Cain Velasquez did. He's going to do fantastic in whatever he decides to do outside of the UFC. But for DC, I think that the best option is to just retire. Call it. You had a great career. Don't push it too far like some of these other guys like BJ Penn. BJ Penn retired and then came back, and now he's 7 fights in a row where he's lost. He's lost 7 fights in a row, and it's actually a UFC record. So let's not turn into that, because BJ Penn was one of my favorite fighters back in the day, and I would still consider him one of the best, if not the best lightweight of all time. And it's tough to make that argument now when he has 7 losses in a row in those divisions. So lastly, we have one last thing to talk about here, and that is that Conor McGregor is back in the news. And I just like Jones, I want to give Conor the credit that he deserves. Like, I want to give Conor the chance to have some redemption. I want him to have the redemption that he needs. He's a funny guy. He sells fights. He's a good fighter. I want him to be able to have that ability to come back and be like, hey, this was all a game, and I played the game well, and blah blah blah, and I want to hear that story. But when somebody has humble beginnings like he does, he really shouldn't be such a piece of shit, and he's actually just continuously proving that he's a piece of shit with the cage jumping and the punching. This is the second time he's punched. So this is the story. Basically, in Ireland, there was an Irish bar, and he was in there, and he was buying everybody drinks of his whiskey that he owns. He owns a whiskey company, and he was buying everybody shots, and the old man was like, I don't want to drink that shit. I don't drink whiskey. And Conor got pissed off because, first of all, it's Conor McGregor, and second of all, he was probably offended that he didn't want him to drink his whiskey. But I mean, it's like, who really knows what happened in that moment? I just know that it's not okay to punch somebody in the face for really any reason, unless it is a fighting thing. Like if you're in the octagon and like you've signed a contract and you're fighting this old guy, punch him in the face as much as you want. But this is another 50-year-old man that you punched in the face because you didn't agree with what he said. I don't really care about the reasons. I don't care if the 50-year-old guy is a gangster. I don't care if the 50-year-old guy is 260 pounds of pure muscle. I don't care if the 50-year-old guy is hitting somebody else. Conor is a UFC fighter. He's paid to hurt people. He's paid to fight, and he makes a lot of money fighting. He makes a lot of it. And he's a professional, or he should be anyways. He should act professional, that is. And even though he's all of these things, he still finds a way to go and do that to people who don't have that experience, to people that don't really deserve that. So I don't know what's going on through the guy's head, but it's just crazy that this guy's even still able to be the magnetic force that brings people in. And like, there's people online that absolutely lose it and love Conor McGregor so much, and I don't know how somebody could be so polarizing that people can gravitate to a guy that's actually such garbage. Like, I want to give Conor the credit that he deserves for all of these things that he's able to do inside the octagon. He's definitely entertaining. He's one of the most entertaining guys that you could possibly give credit for. And you could laugh at all of the stuff that he does, but really it's only a joke to us because we're not the life living it. We're not the people who are being affected by Conor. We're not the people who are being affected by the things that are happening around it. No, Conor is the one that's being, his life is the one that gets affected by these things. He's the one that has hurt these other people, and he's the one that is hurting himself. He has a kid now. He has two, I think. I think he had a second kid not that long ago. He's got a girlfriend who's probably losing her mind over this stuff, and I have no idea what's going through the guy's head, if it's drugs, if it's alcohol, if it's just, stardom has gone to this guy's head. I'm not really sure, but he needs to fix it because I want to give him the credit that he deserves, but I really can't when he keeps making decisions like this. Anyways, guys, I want to say that I'm sorry that I didn't drop those videos earlier. Just, time got out of my hands there. I did write some stuff down, so I have some ideas for in the next 2 days when I'm dropping another video. And I want to appreciate everybody who watched this video. I'll be sharing it on Facebook, and I will be making that group soon so everybody can check it out. And also, I want everybody to share this video, and I would love some thumbs up and some subs. That would be fantastic. I would appreciate it so much. Thank you, everyone, and make sure you have a great night.